This recording is being made on April 6, 2018. My name is Robert Powell, and I am interviewing Gary. And Gary, I'll let you start now. If you could give us just your name and either date of birth or approximate date of birth.
All right, my name is Gary Voorhis. I was born April 25th, 1980.
Okay, and what was your rank and role on board the USS Princeton?
I was FC3 Voorhis. I was in charge of the Aegis computer suite and CEC engagement capability system.
And could you just give a basic overview of what your role would entail and what capabilities were in that role?
My role was to keep the fire control computers and the CEC sensor data suite up and running. Technician, we also dealt with all of the the plasma screen touch base consoles and CIC. Basically, we run the entire Aegis system, the Q70 system aboard the Princeton at the time.
Okay. And do you recall the approximate date and time of this incident?
I know it was the early 2000s. I'll be honest with you, other than the story, I tell drunken to my buddies, I really hadn't, with the non-disclosure agreement, I really hadn't talked about it much or even thought about it much.
Oh, okay. So. All right. So if you could go ahead and start maybe a little bit before the incident began and just tell me what you recall about it. And I will try not to interrupt you unless I just didn't hear something or didn't understand something.
Not a problem. All right. So we were doing operations testing with the Mexican military off the coast of Mexico. I remember that because I was excited about hitting up Puerto Vallarta. So we were doing normal operations. It was just normal, and then the Aegis spy radar technicians had come down and asked me some questions about some data that they had, and we thought we had what they call radar clutter. That's where the peaks of the waves produce false readings on our spy radar. So we went ahead and recalibrated the radar, and no matter what we did, we were still tracking an object. At first, the object seemed like it was actually flying too slow to even stay in the air. And after tracking it for several days, it just seemed to just stay pretty much right in the same area. And we tracked it for over a week before the Nimitz decided to send out an interrogation. So they sent out F-18s to interrogate the object, and I remember watching the video as it was happening, and it was a pretty big humbug and to do with the ship, and I remember seeing the first of the many videos that they did film of it, where it was pretty much just a pretty plain looking shape. I didn't see a lot of reflection off of it, but it was definitely like a metallic and kind of a mute gray, at least on the film itself. It did change shapes before it engaged and when it started, before it moved. It seemed to become more aerodynamic as it moved. It did go from around approximately 30,000 feet to negative 500 feet in an unbelievable amount of time. We did have the sub had got it on sonar along with radar and at certain points it was going faster than even we could track. And then at a certain point there ended up being multiple objects that we were tracking. But that was towards the end of the encounter, and they all generally just kind of zoomed around at ridiculous speeds and angles and trajectories, and then eventually they all bugged out faster than our radars. We were getting what we call spot radar sightings, where it would just catch a glimpse of it as it was moving, because it was moving faster than our radar could register. And then they were gone. And then there was a big hookup, big to-do. We pulled into Puerto Vallarta for 2 extra days, and everything on the ship got wiped. And they had guys that came on board. They had signed non-disclosure agreements, and the official finding was that it was spontaneous ice forming in the atmosphere.
The spontaneous ice, how did you hear that was the official conclusion, or how did you...
That was what was told to my whole division, is that the official statement is that it was spontaneous forming ice in the atmosphere.
Okay.
Which, all of us are, we're all math people, and we're all geeks, and we all sat down and crunched the numbers, and which that literally couldn't have been possible. So...
And was do you know what organization did the?
I think it was all done through the DoD. They didn't specifically cite what organizations were coming on board, but I had to relinquish all CEC data, all fire control data, everything that was recording at the time. I had to relinquish all of that information to them and all the tapes.
Okay. Along those lines, I wanted to ask you a question. If you've heard of anything about this, I know that you guys they all ship-to-ship communications are automatically recorded on disks that are
through my systems.
Right. So I had heard that the next day after the main encounter, right, when you had the multiple objects and everything, that one individual went to get copies of those communications, or wanted to look at them, I guess. And so this would have been before you got to Puerto Vallarta, because he said it was the next morning. And
the helicopters landed on board and they came aboard the ship before we hit Puerto Vallarta. They didn't wipe our drives completely until we hit port, because all of our stuff is tied into the navigational systems, so we wouldn't even have been able to go into port if they wiped us clean then.
Oh, okay.
The tapes, all the data recordings, and the main LAN, which anything non-operational, was wiped before we ever hit port.
Do you recall about how soon? Okay, if you go back to when there was this event where there were multiple objects,
it was within 12 hours.
So that may have been before the next morning.
Yes. Oh yeah. It was. I didn't get any sleep for over 48 hours.
Wow. Okay, so I'm just asking your opinion on this. So my question is the guy who had told me that all the communications, that he said that the computer automatically stamps a date and time every time there's communication on board the ship.
Yes.
And to his knowledge, those are write-only disks that you can't erase them. And maybe that's not true. Maybe you can erase them. I don't know.
It's as simple as an electromagnet.
Oh, well, yeah. Now, that for sure.
They were physically destroyed and erased. Okay. Any discs that they got a hold of, and what they didn't take with them, if we told them that they were blank discs, they still destroyed them. We had no media on board. We had to get new media when we hit board. So
here's the strange thing. He said when he went to check on the discs, the communication logs, that all the timestamps were there, but the communications...
We got to remember that the timestamps are coordinated amongst the entire ship and amongst the entire battle group. So those timestamps are going to remain even if the data doesn't.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Okay.
Because those timestamps aren't just exclusive to one ship. So it's kind of like you can see that there was data there, but it's no longer there.
Right.
It's kind of like when you go to get an old file and it says, I can't open this file.
Right.
Well, that's what happens.
Okay. So, and here I'm asking your opinion also. And after 14 years goes by, not different people remember things differently, but I had asked him about someone coming on board and getting information and that kind of thing, and he had not recalled anything. And I would just think, surely.
Well, I would say it was more of the personnel that were directly involved with taking the recording. They seemed to be very concerned about whether we actually copied it, and the spaces that that they would be going into would be above top secret. Not so much above top secret, but you have to. It's kind of like need to know top
right.
secret.
Yeah.
So unless you had the ability of going into those spaces, you wouldn't have knowledge of anybody coming on board.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
because helicopters come and go all day long. Especially when you're doing cannexes and drills and special. When we're doing all these things. Helicopters are coming and going. We're going to flight quarters on a. We were a flight guard ship, so we were always with the Nimitz.
Right.
And so we were constantly at flight quarters. There was always helicopters coming in and out. So unless you knew exactly who was coming on board, or you were running the flight deck, you wouldn't know who came on and off.
Oh, okay.
And I'm pretty sure these are the type of people that really don't ask to come on board. They just come on board.
Yeah.
They don't sign in. They don't. There is no asking questions of these people. As far as my captain was concerned, you do everything they say, period, or you go to jail. That's it. It was that serious.
Right. Wow.
That's why I chuckled when they told us what the official report was.
Well, this guy had said what the senior chief told me was that kind of what you did. They were seeing these for many days, and on the day when the big event happened, he said they were getting ready to have a joint red-blue exercise, and there were going to be about 30 jets involved, and one of these Tic Tacs, he said, just dropped from 80,000 plus feet down to approximately 20,000 feet. And he gave he had it in his notes. He said it happened in 0.78 seconds.
It was he's a couple of point seconds off, and it was at least from our sensor data. We started registering it and actually actively tracking it at 30,000 feet. And when it went to negative footage it wasn't even a second. It was ridiculous. We were all like, what the?
Yeah.
It literally disappeared from tracking for about a couple of seconds. So, when you look at the actual track data on CEC, it looks more like a broken line than an actual track, because it wasn't tracking it every single second and every single microsecond, because it was moving too fast.
So how fast were you guys tracking it? Like every second or every?
Well, let me put it this way: everything on this planet is too slow for our computers. Our spy radar is nicknamed the alien radar because of the way it works. There's always those running jokes about certain technology and the running joke about our radar is that it was reverse engineered alien technology.
Oh, okay.
It's ridiculously fast. There's nothing on this planet we can't track. We can track satellites with it.
Wow.
So move faster than most of the things on this planet.
So these things, whatever, I'm sure.
Officially, 256 nautical miles.
Right, is how far you guys can see, roughly.
Which it's not accurate.
Right, I know you can see farther than that.
Much farther.
Yeah. So, regular FAA radar, of course, they're sweeping, and most radar just sweeps.
Well, see, those are sweeping data, where ours is a phase array antenna.
Yeah, so yours is probably controlled more by how fast the chip is actually jumping from.
Well, like I said, there at that time, even in research and development, at least known research and development, there was nothing on this planet that we can't track.
Wow, so even, I'm just going to make up a number. Let's just say every microsecond that you guys would get a signal back on a target, like this tic-tac target. Then before your next signal, he had already moved?
It had moved more distance than it should have been able to within that second. So
wow.
Basically the computer is coming up with a null for that moment. So that's basically the space in between those time frames is calculated versus the distance that it's moved. So instead of having a solid line, it would come up with a null because it couldn't process it as fast enough.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, man. So was this thing moving like at a linear rate? Like a certain speed?
Well, I mean, it was going in a specific direction at a specific speed. And I mean, it was basically, as far as the way it looked, it was just straight out of the sky, straight to the earth, under the water, moved for, I mean, it was running over 500 knots in the water.
Wow.
And there's nothing on this planet that can run that fast. So that tells me, like, from just a physics standpoint, that tells me that there is a limitation to the object.
Yeah.
Because while it was in the air, it seemed as though the resistance from the air, it had no problem in speed or anything like that. But once it was in the water, the resistance of the water seemed like there must have been because it slowed down quite a bit, but still moved faster than anything on this planet.
Yeah, that's a good clue, because if it's moving, so the water impacted.
Well, that was my job in the service, is to try to figure out, look between the lines.
Right.
Fix this, even though it's not supposed to work.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, by solid state theory, no electronics is supposed to work, period, but it does.
So, do you know if all of the other ships were picking these objects up on radar?
If it came up on our CEC, it came up on every single ship in the battle group that was equipped with CEC. I'm not sure which ships were actually equipped with it, because on my side, we just started the network and ended the network, so I'm not sure. Because basically ours was the primary.
Yeah.
And I maintained the crypto on it, I maintained the data on it, but I was never told. I knew the carrier had it, I knew the subs had it, but I didn't know which surface vessels had it. I knew all the Aegis ships had it, so if any of them that had the CEC system installed, they all saw the same exact things we did, because all of our sensor data was completely shared.
Oh, okay. It was the sub that picked it up on sonar, was that the USS Louisville?
I'm not sure, sir.
Oh, okay. I know that one was part of the battle group. I don't know if there was more than one sub or not.
It's just labeled submersive on my ship system, so I don't know which one it is.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, Gary, on the video when you saw it. Fravor and Slate went out first on the first group. Do you remember which group?
Well, the first video that was filmed would have been the very first interrogation, and that was I remember that was. Can't remember what time of day that was. I seem to want to say it was in the middle of the day, like more like between noon and 3 o'clock. And I remember we were really excited because we had a live feed via the whole battle group on the secret side of the LAN. So every single person that had top secret clearance was in front of a monitor at the time, and we were watching the entire encounter as it happened. And that was the best video that they had out there, and that clearly showed the object. The pilot actually was able to observe the object for several minutes, and it was that moment where I went from a skeptical believer in things that are a little odd to saying, shit, there's definitely shit that we don't know going on.
Do you recall if the video was in IR or invisible when?
It was in IR because there was no color.
Oh, okay.
And then I know that the second F-18 actually had a black and just a straight black and white of it. There was no IR on that one.
Okay. And
that one was still pretty good, though.
Right.
But I know when they went to thermal that it didn't actually have the thermal reading. Until it started to move, there were no thermals coming off of it at all. And I do believe that the thermals were just the actual molecules of air and water hitting it from the outside, and that's it. The object itself, I don't think, gave off any actual thermal readings.
And the video that you've seen released, I guess through the New York Times article, is that the same video you saw, and was it the same?
It was edited, and but it was definitely one of the better of the videos. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is latitude and longitude normally on those videos?
There's a lot of information that's on those videos that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Latitude, longitude. Usually, it'll have a local description, temperature, airspeed. It's a heads-up display, so it's got a lot of information on it.
Oh, okay.
And it's also an overlay too that they can just remove.
Do you recall if the video you saw was about the same length as this video?
No, it was longer.
Okay. Was there anything in it that was more interesting than what was seen in the video that was released?
I was actually pretty surprised that most of the meat and potatoes were right there. It showed it changing shape, it showed it moving, it showed the general size and shape of it. The one that was floating on YouTube, which I'm guessing the one that was released, that was pretty good. One of the like I said, one of the better of the videos, because a lot of the other ones are just small snippets. You would have had to take the video and put them all together. A lot of them were just small segments of like when it reemerged out of the water, and you could only see a split second of it, and then it would be gone again, and then it would reappear somewhere else. But in reality, it didn't disappear. It was just moving faster than the 60 frames a second your eyes can see.
Oh, that's what. How many people on board do you think saw the video when it was real time?
Well, since our ship has, I'll be honest with you, most of the people on that ship have top secret clearance or above. Because our ship is basically, everything on our ship's basically secret.
Yeah, because one of the guys I talked to was a supply officer, and I was surprised he was able to watch it.
Well, anybody with top secret clearance or above, you just had to have access to the secret land. And of course, there might have been people that might have been just looking over shoulders too.
Yeah.
It was like the Princeton was a small boy. Everybody knows everybody. Like Son, I didn't realize you had talked. You said you talked to Son already.
To Kevin Day.
That day, all right. Yeah, him and Son used to roll around a lot together. But Son was an officer at the time. I think he was still a butterbar. Trying to think, I don't even remember who, because it was over multiple days. So there was. Every 2 hours, there's another person, new person on charge of it on deck. So 2 or 4 hours. I don't know what they do on the.
Yeah.
Ours were 2 hours, but.
One question I wanted to ask you, Gary, and this is the video when it's in the IR, the one that was released. The object is white, and then when it goes into the TV mode, it changes to black.
You got to remember, R is just a different frequency of RF. Light is RF. Everything is radio frequencies. So if once you go to regular light, you are going to an entire different spectrum
right.
of visible light. And honestly, without technology, we can't even see IR. So
correct.
What you're seeing is a computer rendering of what the IR looks like.
Right.
That's why you're seeing the different color patterns.
Right. But the thing that confuses me is like when I was talking to the pilot, he indicated that visually to him the object was like white tic tac.
Yeah, like I said, it almost was like a light gray. You could tell. You could like your. My impression was that it was some type of metallic. Like the way that it moved reminded me of the way Mercury moves.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, more of it didn't seem to have a solid structure. So, and I know, like right now on Earth, we're dealing with a lot of polymers, especially polymers that change shape via electrical impulse.
Right.
So that's kind of that kind of technology is kind of what it reminded me of. That it didn't have a stable shape and only changed shape to suit the needs of whatever it was about to do.
Do you recall if you ever got a size estimate on the object?
My impression is that it was about the size of a speedboat or some type of probably about 20 feet plus.
Did your system give you an actual readout, or?
Honestly, I never looked at it, but yes, it did. It would have given, but you got to remember that's just a radar cross section, and the entire thing didn't actually ping. We were only getting center hits, so like we weren't getting the edges of it.
Yeah.
So it definitely had material that either absorbed or reflected radar, so we didn't get an accurate cross section of it. The only way that we can accurately cross section it is if the video had some type of object in the video that we could reference the size to. I didn't study it well enough to know, because I'll be honest with you, like I said, it's a one time I saw a UFO.
Oh yeah. Now, do you recall? I think you may have mentioned earlier, and I may have missed it. About how fast it took for it to drop from 80,000 to sea level?
Well, if you think about it, it took faster than that. you didn't have time to complete an entire thought in your head before it was already there.
So it's less than a second.
Oh yeah.
And
it was where'd it go? Oh, it's now underwater. Well, lovely.
So the senior chief had told me that when he but I guess in the Princeton you have a central control room. It may be where you were saying you see the live feed real time.
Well, we were able to see that on any of the computers via the secret LAN.
Oh, okay. He said he was in the center, the main room when.
He was probably in CIC.
Oh, that's it. Once you said it, those abbreviations rang a bell. So
we were in charge of all the consoles up there.
Okay, so he said he was in CIC when Fravor engaged the object, and
everybody else was on a computer.
Oh, okay, yeah, and so he were you there when Fravor engaged the object also, or?
Yeah, I watched all the engagements.
So, like on Fravor's engagements, are you still able to see it? Because I don't think he had a FLIR pod or anything.
Yeah, it was just a black and white video.
Oh, okay. So there's always some type of video then.
Yeah, there was never a time there wasn't video. Every engagement of the object and then objects, there was video for it. Now, granted, like I said, a lot of the video was honestly just garbage because of how fast it was moving. You weren't getting any good renderings. You couldn't tell what it was. You knew something was there. You knew it moved. You couldn't tell what it was.
Right.
And then like I said before, a lot of it was moving so fast you would have had to piece 13 videos together to get the flight path. Now,
Okay.
CEC, even only getting a cross-section, you got to remember it got a cross-section from every ship that was capable in the entire battleship. So you're getting reference data from different latitudes and longitudes. So you're able to extrapolate a better picture of where it went, how fast it went, and its flight paths by having all of the data together. That's why that CEC system was so important.
Right.
If you ever had a doubt whether there was something, I honestly couldn't tell you what it was. I have my own opinion about it, but without more in-depth information, we're never going to know what they were. But I will say that it was enough for me to believe that there's definitely more that we don't know.
So on these regular videos that they take that aren't related to the flirt pods, are those recorded, or do those stay recorded, or are those?
It was the flight recorder on the F-18s. They record all their flights, every moment from the time that they start. Once they're in the air and they're cruising altitude and they're heading out, it gets turned on. It doesn't get turned off until they land.
Oh, okay. Because Slate said that Fravor had made some copies, and I think he's talking about probably the flight recorder.
Yeah, so those will be just black and white videos of his actual flight.
Right.